Every career has setbacks. Most people endure them, regroup, and move on. But for Amy Bishop, a single word, denied, became the spark that ignited a chain of destruction.
Stunning update to a campus rampage.
New revelations into Amy Bishop Anderson's past.
This is the Silent Files, where real crimes reveal hidden truths. To our more than 1,000 subscribers and counting, thank you for helping us reach this milestone. We couldn't have done it without you. If you're new, welcome, and don't forget to subscribe for new true crime cases every week. Huntsville, Alabama. Rocket City. It's a place where equations put rockets into the sky, and a small breakthrough in the lab can change the course of a career. At the University of Alabama in Huntsville, professors spent their days lecturing, writing grant proposals, and chasing discoveries. Fridays were for department meetings. They were meant to be routine, budget notes, course rotations, the small politics of academic life. Coffee cups on the table, papers shuffled, polite nods across the room. But on one Friday in February 2010, the quiet rhythm of academia shattered, replaced by panic, gunfire, and lives forever changed. To understand how it came to this, we need to go back. Back to Massachusetts, to Amy Bishop's beginnings, and to the first shadows of a troubling pattern. Amy Bishop was born on April 24, 1965, in Braintree, Massachusetts, the first child of Samuel and Judy Bishop. Her father taught art at Northeastern University, while her mother worked in public service. Growing up, the Bishops emphasized education and order. Amy, their first child, quickly demonstrated both intelligence and intensity. She was bookish, musically gifted on the violin, and excelled academically. But those close to her noticed a streak of intensity. Praise energized her, but setbacks could bring sudden tears or flashes of temper. Her younger brother Seth was bright and athletic. The two were close, but also competitive, and their parents often stepped in to mediate tension. Outwardly, the Bishops looked like a stable middle-class family. Inwardly, Amy's strong will was already visible. It was December 6, 1986. Then 21-year-old Amy was living at home and preparing for graduate study. Seth, just 18, was on the cusp of adulthood. That afternoon, inside the Bishop house, a 12-gauge shotgun went off. The blast struck Seth, killing him instantly. Amy told police it was an accident, that she was trying to unload the gun when it fired. But witnesses described what came next. Amy fled the house still carrying the shotgun, pointed it at motorists, and demanded a car before officers finally forced her to drop the weapon. Despite those alarming details, the death was ruled accidental. No charges were filed. The family buried Seth, and the case was quietly closed. It was the first sign that Amy's volatility could erupt with devastating consequences. After Seth's death, Amy pushed ahead with her education. She studied biology at Northeastern University and later earned her PhD in genetics at Harvard. Along the way, she met James "Jimmy" Anderson, a fellow academic with a passion for research. The two married in the late 1980s and eventually had 4 children. On paper, Amy's life appeared back on track. A Harvard-trained scientist, a young family, and a promising career ahead. But the shadow of her past and her unpredictable temper never truly disappeared. Amy's career path led her through Harvard's research labs, where she spent long hours studying genetics. She was ambitious, determined, and, at least professionally, moving in the right direction. But there were troubling moments that hinted at the volatility beneath. In 1993, one of Amy's former supervisors at Harvard, Dr. Paul Rosenberg, opened his mailbox to find 2 pipe bombs. They never detonated, thankfully, but speculation was immediate. Rosenberg had clashed with Amy in the past, and the FBI questioned both her and her husband. No charges were ever filed, but in academic circles, whispers lingered. Could Amy Bishop have really sent a bomb to a man who crossed her? Nearly a decade later, in 2002, her temper made headlines again. At an IHOP in Peabody, Massachusetts, a simple dispute over a booster seat spiraled into violence. Amy struck another woman in the head and shouted, "I am Dr. Amy Bishop." She was convicted of misdemeanor assault and given probation. One incident might have been brushed off. Even two could be explained away. But when you looked at them together, a clearer picture emerged. Amy Bishop struggled to handle conflict, and when she felt slighted, she lashed out. In 2003, Amy and her family moved south. She accepted a tenure-track position at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, teaching anatomy and neuroscience. On the surface, it looked like a fresh chapter. Huntsville, nicknamed Rocket City, was home to scientists, engineers, and academics chasing discovery. It seemed like the perfect fit. There were even bright spots. Amy and her husband co-developed a portable cell incubator, a device that earned recognition and a small prize. Administrators liked the innovation, and Amy's teaching impressed some students. But in academia, there's one word that defines a career: tenure. And to earn it, you need publications, grants, and steady research output. On that front, Amy fell short. Colleagues described her as brilliant but defensive, quick to take offense, and often combative in department disputes. Her publication record was thin, and as her tenure review approached, the pressure only grew heavier. In March 2009, the decision arrived: tenure denied. By policy, Amy would finish out the following academic year and then lose her job. For most professors, it's a painful blow, but survivable. Many regroup, find posts elsewhere, and rebuild. But Amy didn't regroup. She appealed. She filed complaints of discrimination. She contacted lawyers. To friends, she insisted she was being sabotaged, ruined. Colleagues noticed her anger hardening into obsession. She told people that losing her job would destroy her. And while others saw rejection, Amy saw annihilation. On Friday, February 12, 2010, the biology department gathered for what should have been a routine meeting. Around a dozen faculty and staff sat in a third-floor conference room inside the Shelby Center for Science and Technology. Department Chair Dr. Gopi Podila led the discussion. Nearby sat Dr. Maria Ragland Davis, Dr. Adriel Johnson, Dr. Joseph Leahy, Dr. Luis Cruz Vera, staffer Stephanie Monticello, and Dr. Deborah Moriarty. Amy Bishop was there too, quiet, composed, saying little. For half an hour, the meeting moved as usual. Then, without warning, Amy stood. From her bag, she pulled out a 9mm handgun and opened fire. Dr. Padilla was shot point blank. Davis and Johnson were killed almost instantly. Leahy was struck, Monticello was shot in the face, and Cruz Vera was wounded. Panic exploded in the room. Chairs scraped, papers flew, people scrambled for cover. And then, a mechanical miracle. The gun jammed. In that heartbeat of silence, Dr. Deborah Moriarty lunged at Amy, shouting her name, pushing her toward the door as others barricaded it shut. Amy left the building, discarded the weapon and her jacket, and called her husband. Her words were chillingly brief. "I'm done." Minutes later, police intercepted her. Dazed, she told officers, "It didn't happen. They're still alive." As investigators dug into Amy Bishop's past, old shadows returned. The first was from 1986, when Amy's younger brother Seth was shot and killed in the family home. At the time, police dismissed it as a tragic accident. But decades later, witnesses recalled seeing Amy brandish the shotgun before it discharged. This prompted Massachusetts prosecutors to revisit the case. In 2010, a Norfolk County grand jury indicted Amy Bishop for Seth's death on charges including first-degree murder and assault with a dangerous weapon. Yet with Amy already facing capital murder charges in Alabama that could put her away for life, Massachusetts chose not to move forward. The indictment remains, but the case was never tried. Next came the 1993 pipe bomb investigation, a mysterious package sent to one of Amy's colleagues. It was never solved, But in light of later events, investigators looked at it again with fresh suspicion. The IHOP assault, too, resurfaced. Once thought of as a public outburst, it now looked like one more step in a long and escalating pattern of violence. Then came February 2010, when Amy opened fire during a University of Alabama faculty meeting. In June of that year, a Madison County grand jury indicted her on 1 count of capital murder and 3 counts of attempted murder. Prosecutors announced they would pursue the death penalty, setting the stage for a painful legal battle. Her defense hinted at an insanity plea, pointing to her history, the strange circumstances of her brother's death, the pipe bomb investigation, the public assault, and now the mass shooting. They argued this wasn't just about tenure. It was the culmination of decades of unchecked mental illness. But prosecutors saw it differently. To them, this wasn't madness at all. It was calculated, premeditated revenge. A professor denied tenure who chose to settle the score by bringing a handgun to a faculty meeting and pulling the trigger again and again. For 2 years, hearings and motions dragged on. The possibility of a full death penalty trial loomed, one that would have forced survivors and grieving families to relive every detail of the massacre in court. But then, something unexpected happened. The very people most devastated by Amy Bishop's actions, the survivors and the families of those killed, stepped forward with a plea of their own. They urged the district attorney not to pursue the death penalty. For them, another execution would not bring their loved ones back. It would only prolong the pain, keeping the wounds open through years of appeals and delays. This act of grace changed the course of the case. In June 2012, prosecutors reached a deal. Amy Bishop would plead guilty to avoid a trial, and in exchange, the death penalty was taken off the table. On September 11, 2012, Amy Bishop stood in an Alabama courtroom and pleaded guilty to capital murder and attempted murder. Just 2 weeks later, on September 24th, a jury reviewed the evidence and confirmed the sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. There would be no retrial, no appeals, no chance of release. Amy Bishop would spend the rest of her life behind bars. The University of Alabama in Huntsville tried to heal, but the scars ran deep. Memorials were dedicated to the 3 professors who never came home. Campus safety and threat assessment policies were re-examined, not just at UAH, but across universities nationwide. The survivors lived on as daily reminders of that February afternoon. Dr. Joseph Leahy, who suffered catastrophic brain injuries, fought his way back into the classroom, but the damage lingered. In 2017, he passed away from complications tied directly to his injuries, another life claimed by that day's violence. Stephanie Monteccholo endured years of reconstructive surgeries, and Dr. Luis Cruz Vera returned to teaching, carrying quiet resilience into his lectures. Amy Bishop remains in an Alabama prison today, serving a life sentence without parole. And in a cruel twist of fate, the shadows of gun violence followed her family beyond her own crimes. In April 2021, nearly 11 years after the UAH shooting, her only son, Seth Anderson, named after her late brother, was shot and killed in Huntsville at just 20 years old. An acquaintance, 18-year-old Vincent Harmon, was later indicted on manslaughter in connection with the case. It's almost impossible not to reflect on that irony. Amy Bishop, who opened fire and killed her own colleagues, later lost her only son to the same fate: gun violence. And it raises an unsettling question. If Amy had been free in 2021, would her infamous temper have driven her to exact her own revenge on her son's killer? Or would she have allowed the justice system to take its course? We'll never know. But it's a chilling thought. So what was this tragedy really about? Was it the crushing rejection of Amy Bishop's tenure, a professional setback she couldn't bear? Or was it the culmination of a violent pattern ignored for too long? And what do you make of the families who, faced with grief and rage, chose mercy instead of another death? What would you have chosen? You've been watching The Silent Files, where real crimes reveal hidden truths. If this case gave you something to think about, please like, share, and subscribe. New cases every week. Thanks for watching.